If you don't have a system in your business that allows you to wake up to sales, if you don't have a way to, be out doing the shopping and go, ping, oh yeah, nice, a sale, then you're really missing out. Because if you're taking all that time to regularly kind of get content out there, have a beautiful website, do wonderful brand photography, what's the point if someone can be discovering who does want to take action right now and you're making it impossible for them? Like, so many of us inadvertently create a lot of hurdles in our marketing, which actually prevents someone from kind of jumping into your world and learning what it's like to work with you.
Can I just say that is not awful to say that somebody needs to have something like worth scaling up? Just by somebody hearing you say that, you have saved them potentially years and, getting caught in that whole sunken cost bias syndrome where you've poured so much money into something that's just not going to work, but you feel like you just have to keep going because it will work magically. So today we have a guest that actually her expertise is really close to what I'm trying to do, which is build an evergreen funnel. She's an evergreen scaling strategist plus mentor. Her name is Polly Lavarello. I was on her podcast and now she's on mine. So in a world of silver bullet promises and underwhelming support, Polly Lavarello's evergreen scaling strategies turn audaciously ambitious and highly skilled business owners into cushy CEOs. And let me just pause right here. Before we hit record, even though this technically is the episode that's supposed to happen before we hit record, we were just diving into her expertise, and it was pretty cool learning about her lead magnet and how it's feeding high quality leads into her funnel. And the reason I started asking more questions is because, Paula, you say that you're just inundated in sales calls. And I'm like, not everybody says that. So that is a good problem to have.
Yeah, I have. It's been a really, really busy month. But you know what? I'll also say that it's a result of compounding efforts and refinement and optimizations over the last year, which is what I'm all about. I'm really tired of seeing coaches crashing and burning and constantly feeling the need to reinvent themselves. So yeah, I've been walking my own talk and it's really starting to pay off.
Love it. Love it. And so, dear listener, in this upcoming episode, not the one right now, the one right now is going to be good, but in the upcoming episode, especially if you have a group program and you've been wanting to, I don't know, achieve the holy grail, evergreen funnels, we'll be talking about turning your group program into an everyday sales machine and how to create launch size revenue without launching. And we're going to dive into this funnel that Polly has set up. I had some really good questions for her, which I will re-ask in the next episode. But as we continue with this one, Elevate for Evergreen Accelerator, Polly gives you the simple, repeatable, and customizable methods to create a cushy stream of dream clients, yes please, and monthly recurring income. And so much time back that it feels weird. I could sign up for that myself, even though I don't have a group coaching program. Welcome to the show. Welcome to the show, Polly.
Thanks for having me. I'm always so happy chatting with you.
Yay. I know we get along so well that we just hung out for 20 minutes before. And I'm so glad that you decided to hang out today, even though I know it's a bit later in the day for you. And you've had a long day so far, huh?
Yeah, no, it's been, like I say, it's been a really intense month. It's when everything starts working and it all starts working all at once. It can be a bit overwhelming. But it's one of those things. Actually, I'm regularly talking to I regularly talk about scalable business models. But there's a bit of kind of humility in admitting sometimes when we're not necessarily entirely walking our own, walk or talk. And yeah, I kind of got burnt this month, but it's, every time these things happen, it's an opportunity to kind of reassess and reinvent. So it's all good.
It's all good. I feel like it's all practice. Some of it very truly is bad in the day to day, but it's practice that amounts to experience, that amounts to success further down the road.
100%. And actually, funnily enough, it's something I was reflecting on recently, that a lot of people in the business space sell how to create scalable systems. And people can spend so much time ensuring everything that they're building is scalable and optimized and all the rest. And then actually suffer in terms of sales because they're not actually paying attention to all the things they need to be paying attention to have that consistent sales coming in. And so they end up with this beautiful kind of way of looking after clients, but no clients to look after. So it was actually a relatively intentional decision recently to be like, stop obsessing about creating, I don't know, fancy Airtable kind of automations, and let's focus a bit more on just getting out there and getting more visible, and have it as a nice problem to have when it all becomes too much. And then those other bits are actually a lot easier and quicker to fix. But having consistent sales, that's probably one of the most challenging elements of running an online business.
For sure. And doing these things that are unscalable, like reaching out to a good number of the new people that have downloaded a lead magnet or purchased a mini course and gotten on your email list, it's not scalable. But at the same time, it's quite beneficial for the business. And for folks like me, I don't know, are you like this too, where you just like to meet the people?
Oh yeah, no, I really, really do. I really that's honestly one of my biggest downfalls is I just love human beings. And I've been on such a journey myself, like over the last 5 years. Like someone actually, weirdly enough, was trying to enroll me into their mastermind today. And he said to me, "Oh, you should be working with the version of yourself 5 years ago." And I said, "The version of me 5 years ago was on benefits in a flat with two small kids under the age of four, like just launching my business." And I did some pretty courageous things back then to kind of get my business up and running that, yeah. So I was like, whoever it is I'm speaking to, it's not 5 years ago. Cause I went from that being on benefits to running a multi six figure business within 3 years. So it all happened very, very quickly. And I'm not going to pretend that I wasn't very lucky that I launched. I know similarly for you, like COVID had a huge impact. The pandemic had a huge impact on your business. Similarly for me, it created a gold mine of opportunity, which I don't think any of us quite realized at the time until hit 2024 when suddenly everyone's kind of having a very different experience.
Yeah, I can't say that COVID brought a gold mine of opportunity. It kinda just killed my business. Um,
But it
wonderful
was a
teaser,
pivot.
by
It was
the
a pivot.
wonderful teaser, by the way, like, 2 kids in a flat. My when I was growing up for the majority of my childhood, like, I don't know what it's called in the UK, but, like, for us, it's called food stamps, and my parents were well, we were on food stamps, and we weren't in a flat, but it was, like, a pretty small house in the ghetto. I'm we're gonna jump back to that. I wanna hear all about it. But before we do, can you give a snapshot of your business as it currently is? And then we can go back in time to wherever you wanna go back as we talk about, like, your journey in building it.
So, a snapshot of my business as it currently stands is about 70% of my I'm probably around 250K a year before tax at the moment, and 70% of that comes from my mastermind. The other 30% comes from my signature program. Having said that, that signature program launched properly kind of towards the end of last year. So while it's a smaller percentage right now, the goal is to flip those percentages within the next 2 years so that 70%, 80% will be coming from my signature program. So yeah, because that's the most scalable part of my business, while the mastermind isn't. But I will be truthful. I know a lot of people had a slightly challenging year in 2024. For me, I was getting married, I was going on honeymoon. So my priority was the mastermind for a year. I actually kind of retreated slightly from the world of kind of having big, busy programs because there were kind of challenges emotionally that I wasn't quite ready for. But there's been time to heal from that. And I'm kind of, yeah, back in the game of getting super visible and inviting people into this amazing container.
Just to clarify, what are we healing from? Hopefully, it wasn't getting married.
No, no, no. I'll be really honest. One of the things that's really challenging about scaling a group program is that the more people you have in your world, the higher the likelihood there will be people who come into your world who just don't get you, who just don't like you. Particularly when you're using ads and funnels where people are kind of potentially sitting by the pool one afternoon and a paid client by, like, I don't know, one margarita later. So, what I found was that there was a tiny percentage of people who either just weren't showing up or had challenges of their own or just outright didn't like me. And last year, I read various books like The Courage to Be Disliked, which had a fantastic statistic actually, where he said 1 in 10 people, like I think he said 2 in 10 people will be indifferent to you, 1 in 10 people will outright just hate you. And that was actually really helpful to read because it just made me recognize actually that really makes a lot of sense in terms of my lived experience. But there was a lot of kind of having to mature as a human being, recognizing emotions are one thing and business is another. And I needed to be better at differentiating the two and better at understanding what my responsibilities are as somebody who's there to support you and hype you up and mentor you, and equally what they're not, you know?
Okay. Huh. The courage to be disliked. I don't have the courage to be disliked, so maybe I should pick up that book too.
Honestly, it's amazing how many ways it can hold you back if you're afraid of, even things like cushy business. I remember at the beginning, like being passionate about reframing what cushy is and helping people feel why not have a business that makes more money in less time? But I noticed, some people were outright offended by that concept. And I had to kind of grow and get past all of those things. And that's actually why, you've seen my website. It's kind of gregarious and a bit over the top. But I kind of did that as a kind of like, this is the archetype I'm stepping into. It's not entirely where I am at yet as a human being. But I
What
know
is
if I kind of
gregarious
step
about
into those shoes and do those shoots, it will be more me.
Okay, alright. I mean, what's gregarious about laying on a pink fur carpet that's on, like, luxurious, like, white and green striped, like, bed linen thing? Like, it's a very strong branding.
It's fun. It was so much fun. I think it was one of those things that as marketers, we can sometimes feel quite disillusioned by the fakery around marketing. And so for me, when I did that branding shoot, which has really helped my funnels and really helped me in terms of everyday sales. But when I did that shoot, yeah, no, it's massively helped. Oh my goodness, we need to talk about this. But
I mean, are you
but
saying,
before I
like,
did that shoot,
I
I
need to
was
get
like,
rid of the gray? Because this is, like, the guest office here, and I get me some green and white striped linens? I could.
you could honestly, things that visibly make you memorable make all the difference. Like one thing I think nearly all of us know who run funnels is what we've seen in the last year is that generally speaking, particularly when it comes to high ticket investment, people can be slower to decide. Now, what that means is, of course, we can do all those touch points and be reaching out to them again. But one of the best ways to ensure that people don't forget you is make yourself unforgettable. But in a world where we can be churning out content all the time using AI, your words kind of aren't enough. I mean, I'm going to say kind of, I'm being too gentle there. Your words are not enough. So when I had the towel on my head in some photographs, and when I received all my pictures, there was some of me with my hair down and I looked kind of conventionally the way one would for, one of their head photos. But then there was one with me with a towel on my head. And at the time, the woman who did my creative directing kind of said, I guarantee you, if you use the one with the towel in your head, people are going to like be pausing to go, what is that on her head? And now every time I go to a summit or an event, people come up to me and they're like, where's your towel? Or you're the kind of, crazy vintage lady. Like everyone, like before people didn't know who I was. Now, like it not only do they know who I am, but it's like an icebreaker. They're like, where's the towel? Or like, you bring the towel out later, or are you coming onto the podcast wearing a towel? So it's really, really helped.
I mean, do you have a towel just off camera that you're going to, like, put around your head? That's cool. Okay, alright.
Not this time. But yeah, so it's what's my kind of like motivation behind why I run my business the way I do and why I'm passionate about helping other people to run their businesses the evergreen way. And when I say evergreen, I'm not saying that doesn't mean you can't live launch and you can't do other things. But I think ultimately, if you don't have a system in your business that allows you to wake up to sales, if you don't have a way to, be out doing the shopping and go, ping, oh, yeah, nice, a sale, then you're really missing out. Because if you're taking all that time to regularly kind of get content out there, have a beautiful website, do wonderful brand photography, what's the point if someone can be discovering who does want to take action right now and you're making it impossible for them? Like so many of us inadvertently create a lot of hurdles in our marketing, which actually prevents someone from kind of jumping into your world and learning what it's like to work with you. And, for me, what I really learned was because when I started out in this back in 2020 and my kids were still, one was a preschooler and the other one had just started school. Um, I was tired. I even had long COVID and I tried launching and I was like, this ain't happening.
No. No. So, I mean, we might as well go into that. Your business is a young business, just like my Facebook ads, like, management business, um, but it looks like you started about a year before me, and you were in a flat with 2 kids on services is what you call it?
Universal credit is what it's called. But yeah, benefits, any of those, yeah, it's kind of, yeah, government help essentially. Yeah, because I left my husband. He was in a different country. There are different laws there, which meant the second I left the country, he didn't really have much obligation. So that left me in a situation where I very quickly ran out of money and needed to go on universal credit. And beyond that, I had marketing experience, but I really struggled to find a role that would enable me to be as present for the children as I wanted to be, which maybe call me stubborn, but a lot of me is like, I'm not paying for a nanny to spend time with my kids. I want to be with my kids and I
At
want to do
that
it. And
age, yeah.
yeah. So, I kind of then looked into contracting and I was like, wow, like there's a whole world of opportunity where I can work from my, desktop. But what I didn't realize is that I was reliant on referrals. I was reliant on what just happened to appear underneath my nose, and I wasn't instigating any of that. So I'd actually been kind of doing that for 2 years from 2018 to 2020. I'd skilled up in Facebook ads. I'd started to kind of run Facebook ads. But it was really challenging, and it also wasn't really what I wanted to do forever. And so in 2020, I invested in my first ever business mentor to basically get support in launching a group program. And that was when I had my first 10K month, which is pretty trivial in comparison to the months I've had since. But at the time, I was like, my goodness, that's like, I've had salaries in the past that were like 14K for a year. And I mean, admittedly, that was a very small salary, but still, I made 10K in 1 month. And at the time, because my business was very new, so I didn't really have a team or anything, the majority of that was take home money. And it was, and in that moment, I was like, wow, life really gets to. And then I think I had a second month in a row that was like that. And then a third month, which was maybe 20K. And I was like, right, that's it. We're moving out. So I rang up, and said, take me off benefits. I don't want them anymore. Moved us into a house. And my then boyfriend also moved in. And that's how I kind of moved from doing everything by myself to him coming in to support me.
Nice. Okay. Alright. This was 2021.
That was 2020. So it was July. So 20. I mean, this is what's really wild. I don't even know how I did all those things back then because I came down with that illness in March. I don't even want to say it by name, and was bedbound for about 6 weeks. Somehow still launched in April. And that's how much opportunity there was back then, in that I could, in my sick state, launch something. I based it on what everyone kept on asking me questions around. I was like, let's just create something based on what everyone keeps on asking me. And by July, we'd moved out, and my then boyfriend was like, I'm working full time and you're working part time, but you're making this kind of money. This doesn't make sense. How about I work less hours so you can work more hours and like fully go into your business? So that's what
Smart
we
guy.
did. Yeah, he does a lot of fishing these days. He's very happy.
I mean, well, yeah, like, as a couple, like, let's lean into what's working. It's like, why do this? Like, I could transition to do something. So it makes sense. Okay. Alright, alright. Um, it's funny, I remember you just said, like, when you couldn't say the name of, like, COVID, and I remember randomly those days when it was like, I didn't wanna say the name on social media because it would, like, scale down my reach or make a YouTube video unmonetizable.
Yeah, so true. So it has its lingering after effects.
So has it been smooth sailing since then till now?
I mean, like what you said about practices is so true. I don't think smooth sailing is quite it, because the way people buy and the opportunities in each year have looked quite different. So I was actually, up until the beginning of 2024, still balancing running a few ad accounts alongside also being a mentor. But I think it was in late 20, I'm trying to remember if it's late 2021. I think it was late 2021. Yeah, it must have been. Where I actually hired someone to help me grow an agency for my ads. And then as within about 1 month of having conversations with him, he was like, do you actually want this? And I was like, no, I don't. I want to be doing what you're doing. That looks way more appealing. I love, helping people and getting my nose under the bonnet of someone else's business and strategizing about funnels. Like, it's the funnel bit that lights me up. Like, I'm so tired of coaches coming to me thinking ads will fix a poor funnel. Like, it just wasn't it. So around then, I kind of then, and that's when I also knew that what I wanted to help people with was evergreen funnels, because having the beauty of obviously having the experience of supporting all those coaches is I looked at those who had evergreen systems, and they were the ones with the most time off, the team kind of systematically doing everything. Everything seemed pretty predictable. And then those who were live launching had enormous teams, enormous expenses, enormous pressure on those teams. Because the teams were big, a lot of the time those teams weren't working particularly well together. And it was, generally speaking, pretty chaotic. And my nervous system just couldn't cope. I just found it way too much. So I kind of knew a streamlined, lean way of running your business so that you can welcome new clients in every day was the direction I wanted to go in. So I made it my point to be amazing at it. And I was very fortunate that when I decided to do that, I just left a mastermind and a few women were like, "Yeah, I'll come and learn that from you." And a phenomenal experience working with me. Like one of them to this day is still spending £1,000 a month on ads and making about 20K back each month. It's obviously never exactly that, but when she averages it out, it's that, to the same webinar, to the same funnel that she and I created in early 2022. So this funnel now has been running almost 3 years. And the only thing she's had to update is the ads. So like when this stuff works, it works amazingly. But for her, she kind of hit the ground running really quickly. Not everyone else kind of hits the ground quite as fast as she did, but she really set a phenomenal precedent for everything moving forward.
Dang. Hold on though, Polly. Like, I think the listener missed the part of the conversation and might be a little confused. Did you also have like a Facebook and Instagram ads agency?
Yeah, so I had so I started off running ads, and then as I moved into becoming a mentor. So if anyone is a service provider and thinking about making this transition, I'll show a little oversight in case it's helpful, because I don't think it's something people talk about very much. But yeah, I went from, I mean, essentially every time I was an ads manager, I just did so much more than that, as you can probably imagine. I was like, no, this is your, like, because I would look at their offer and be like, your offer's not quite right, the funnel's not quite right. And I would tell them what to do instead. And would kind of fix all those pieces so their ads could work. But I then recognized that actually I was massively over delivering for an ads manager, and that some people just were feeling so much pressure to want to run ads when actually they really probably needed to spend a good month to 6 weeks on fixing their funnel before they did anything else. Or, be in an agile enough place to be able to take my recommendations on board and implement them. But a lot of people just weren't in that place. So what I recognized, the moment I had this mentor say to me, "You don't like this anymore, do you?" And I was like, "No, I don't. I want to do what you're doing." Um, we kind of made an escape plan for me, where what I did was I had an assistant who'd been helping me already for about 18 months at that stage. And she actually said to me, Polly, I'm actually really good at this. You just don't really give me a chance to to be good at this and
Good
do
at
this.
good at what? The
I'm good
ads
at running
then?
ads.
Okay.
So she's like, if you pass these accounts on to me, I could look after them. So we kind of had this weird hybrid model where she would be running the ads, but I would be kind of checking in on her once a week, and she'd reach out to me if she ever had any questions or anything that she was concerned about. I was still the main point of contact for my ad clients, but she would be doing the day to day, kind of making sure the ad accounts were being looked after and updating all the creative and copy and all the rest. And it worked really well. It worked really, really well. But I think what was challenging for me was that, obviously, as you know, ads are changing. Like the way ads work, is evolving and changing all the time. And you need to be on top of that stuff. And it reached a stage where I just felt I'm not motivated to be on top of that stuff. And my clients deserved someone who was motivated to be on top of that stuff. So that's when I had to make the sticky decision of like, okay, this is where I leave entirely, and fired a couple of clients who were still there. Like every time someone left, I didn't renew them, and I would just continue scaling my coaching business. And eventually I had to make the kind of slightly sticky decision of letting go of 5K recurring revenue to make space for my mentoring business.
Nice. I mean, not nice. At the time, maybe somewhat scary, but still. 5K recurring revenue, goodbye. Coaching, hello.
Yeah, it was scary, but at the same time, I kind of came up with a really simple business model of like 10 clients, all paying me a certain sum of money for a year, 1 hour call per month. And that's the thing I'm kind of phasing out now, because actually that was way too time intensive. But it gave me that financial kind of bread and butter to know that anything I did on top of that would be, I mean, already that was well beyond, that was already profitable, but I knew that also gave me the space to work on the more scalable parts of my business, like my group program. So yeah.
Okay, alright. So, I feel like you've shared so much. Me really wanting to know what you're doing for scaling up your signature program, I think it's gonna guide the rest of this conversation, which is, what are we doing to grow it?
Oh my goodness. You know what? I will admit that I'm in a phase of kind of really experimenting and playing with different things. It seems that what I'm doing is working. The biggest kind of risk I have is that I'm just obsessed with funnels and strategies. And all of my clients all have slightly different approaches. And most of the like 99% of them are working. And so sometimes I can be like, well, let's try on that client's strategy for size because that looks fun. So I have to kind of rein myself in. But at the moment, what we're doing is I just have a very streamlined, simple offer suite, which ultimately means, regardless of what I'm selling, I'm kind of selling everything all at once, which is really handy. So I've got my mastermind, which is for established business owners who are earning six figures and over who are looking to scale. And in there, obviously, I'm supporting them to figure out what they should be doing in terms of, increased visibility, advertising, podcast guesting, speaking, all of that jazz. Hiring plays a huge role in a lot of our conversations. Hiring that success team, and that's, like I say, the 70% of my revenue at the moment. And then I've got my signature program, which is actually now called the Everyday Sales Accelerator. It was called Elevate for Evergreen, and I realized no one even knows what Evergreen is. Let's not call it that. And that's technically a 90-day accelerator, but they get a whole year worth of calls and support. And the idea of that is they come in and they either audit and elevate their group program so that they can run it evergreen, or they design an infinitely scalable group program and launch it in those 3 months with me. And the reason why they have another 9 months of access to calls is because I don't want it to be like so many other accelerators out there where you do the thing and then you go, I wanted them to have like that kind of support network on the other side. And then prior to that, I've got my super low ticket offer, 10 days to speedy sales, which essentially helps people come in with whatever they have already. And it shows them how they can kind of create a cash injection within 10 days and what the levers are in your business to increase your revenue. And what's really fun is, obviously, if I'm selling 10 days to speedy sales, a really good percentage, I wish I could say off the top of my head, but it's somewhere between, I think it's about 30 to 40%, depending on the month, then go into my accelerator. And then in my accelerator, of course, the goal is, the accelerator hasn't been running for long enough, but my belief is most people are coming in maybe making 3 to 5K. If they get to the stage where they're making 7 to 8 by the end of that year, they would be in a really good position to join my mastermind. So essentially I just have, and what's beautiful about it is really established business owners can be jumping in and succeeding. Equally, those who are a bit earlier on can as well, but it is for those who are established in their expertise, and they've got something that's worth packaging up. That sounds awful, but there are some people who come into the world who've just got their coaching qualification. They're like, I don't know how I coach. I don't know who likes working with me. I'm like, well, then you are not ready to be considering a group program at that stage. You just want to get enough one-to-ones to learn what makes you different, learn what makes them different, and learn what's unique about working with you.
I mean, can I just say that is not awful to say that somebody needs to have something like worth scaling up? Just by somebody hearing you say that, you have saved them potentially years and, getting caught in that whole sunken cost bias syndrome where you've poured so much money into something that's just not going to work, but you feel like you just have to keep going because it will work magically. Like, I've had things that I thought could scale up, and they just really couldn't because they were broken or they weren't really serving a need. So, like, I think it's fine to say that. Like,
It's so true. And, I talk about getting away from the problem of being fully booked one to one, but ultimately, you kind of want that's a nice problem to have. You want to get to the stage where you are fully booked one to one because that shows that you know how to meet a demand head on and that you and you can deliver effectively. Like all of those pieces are working, which means you're probably in the perfect position. In fact, some of my clients have come from exactly that predicament. And usually it's just a mindset block around, can I do a group program? And will people still buy from me? Because I'm like, when you solve the same problem, they don't care if it's you directly or you in a program, as long as it's clear. And obviously that's why the emphasis around creating a really strong curriculum is so important. But this is what, when you say about like how I think, has it been smooth sailing? I think that's what's interesting about all of this, because there's so many things that have, that we're having to kind of monitor all the time. So one, if a certain type of funnel does really well for a while, Sometimes it can just suddenly become old hat and really boring. And sometimes that's an advantage. It means that actually carry on doing that same thing because suddenly you'll be the person doing something different and people will want to see it after all. Um, but sometimes, you do need to kind of evolve your funnel somewhat to meet the way people's buying trends are going, right? And then similarly, the way you deliver your content, people used to be really happy to sit there on their phone or on their laptop consuming content to be learning. But nowadays, if you can turn that into, let's say, a private podcast, people will be much happier to be at the gym learning at the same time from you rather than having to sit down and make time in their busy days to watch one of your videos. So the way curriculums have been designed is also needing to evolve. I mean, this is the thing about the digital marketing landscape is the truth is, we all know it's kind of constantly evolving and shifting. So you can never get too comfortable. There are certain things you need to be watching. And of course, there are also some timeless marketing principles that will never die, which is to be established as an authority is always, always going to serve you well because as you evolve and shift, people will follow you because you're that authority. Bonus points if you've got a towel on your head. They'll definitely follow you if you've got a towel on your head. And the other thing is, of course, having strong messaging. Again, that just means whatever funnel you throw at it, it's going to be working so much better. And the other really important piece is, have an offer that actually meets a demand. There's so many people who have this like 2020, 2021 habit of like, I will create the demand. I will make sure everyone knows that we live a longer life if we burn 10 incense sticks behind my head. And if I just keep on showing incense, people will want the incense. And it's like, just make life easier for yourself and meet. I mean, it's a really terrible example, but I'm trying to be random here to not offend anyone and just choose something that just obviously doesn't exist.
Wait a second. We need to read that Courage to Be Disliked book again.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, I really should. But creating like a lot of the time, people just don't take the time to think about what are people actually proactively seeking, and that plays a really big role in Evergreen. If we're talking about how can we create everyday sales with your group program, when somebody sees your advert and they're like, "Oh my goodness, this is I needed to see this today. This is exactly what I've been thinking I need." Then you are going to be making sales with so much more ease. If someone's looking, going, "Oh, that looks kind of interesting. I don't know if I need it," it's going to be so much harder for you. And so many niches will often say to me, "Oh, but there isn't a need. People aren't investing in XYZ." It's just never true. There are always people out there investing in the problem you solve. You're probably just not packaging it up in a way that's creating urgency for them. But that's how we make evergreen funnels work, is by standing out as an authority, but also equally, having that piece where we are meeting a problem that people want to spend money on solving.